Sung Jin Woo, Master of the Shadows, the strongest hunter in history and a Rizzler like none other. This guy really went from being the world's weakest hunter to an actual god who rewrote mankind's history in just a few months. Despite starting off as the worst E rank, Jin Woo became a player of the system, instantly unlocking a way to increase his level to over 100, thus increasing his strength and speed each time. But that's not all. Jin Woo would acquire power and abilities that transcend any other hunter, such as having the ability to control his own shadow army. It all started when Jin Woo, unfortunately, or should I say luckily, ended up in a double dungeon with absolutely overpowered enemies. Turns out though, this was a plan orchestrated by a mage known as the Architect, who was working alongside the strongest being in the whole universe, the Shadow Monarch Ashbourne, to find a hunter suitable to host his immense power. But because Ashbourne was so busted, they first needed this person to strengthen their mind and body so that they wouldn't be destroyed by Ashbourne's powers. So they turned Jin Woo from a hunter to a player, where as he leveled up he would gain all of the Shadow Monarch's abilities through the system. The first of all these abilities came right as we all thought he was dead in the double dungeon, when Jin Woo completed the quest Courage of the Weak by displaying bravery and intellect against the stone statues. This allowed him to fully regenerate his health and completely restore his cut off leg, giving Jin Woo another chance at life. Another perk of completing this quest was that he gained a spell called Kandiaru's Blessing, which gave him the passive ability to regenerate any body part, but the best part was the longevity that made him immune to any disease, illness or poison. Undoubtedly, being able to heal yourself is a huge part of any game, and so Jin Woo was granted the ability Status Recovery. This would kick in upon completion of specific missions or dungeons like we see against the lizards. However, this and all the abilities Jin Woo received were not actually granted by the system, as in reality he wasn't just becoming a stronger hunter, but slowly unlocking all the powers of Ashbourne. By doing so, he literally achieved every freaking possible power. Jin Woo is a freak who grows in strength exponentially with every battle, which is the main reason why he was able to go from zero to hero in just a few months. Through constantly leveling up and doing Saitama's training every day as his daily quest of 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups and a 10-kilometer run, his physical abilities, including strength, speed and regeneration, were enhanced to superhuman levels. I know you're all thinking, but that's the case for every hunter, they're all stronger than your normal human. But Jin Woo is on his own scale. For example, even when he was holding back, he managed to beat Thomas Andre, the strongest of the 5 national level hunters, to the brink of death. And this was before he fully became the Shadow Monarch. But it's not just brute strength that's dangerous in Jin Woo's arsenal. First, there is detection, which allows him to sense the presence and location of other beings, including monsters and humans. This ability helps him navigate dungeons and stay aware of potential threats. It's almost like observation hacky. But the real danger of this power comes into play in combination with camouflage or stealth. This is an ability Jin Woo gained after killing the B rank hunter Kang Taishik. It allows the user to erase their shape, spell, sound, and even aura. In this battle against Kang, it is also when we see the use of Bloodlust that lets Jin Woo intimidate a target into submission, sort of like Conqueror's Haki. But even this ability pales in comparison to Dragon's Fear, where Jin Woo releases a mana-infused shout from his soul that drives anyone weaker than him into a state of intense despair and panic. Then there are simple abilities like Quicksilver, which gives him a 30% boost in speed for a short period. Mutilation, which are slashes from his daggers that do critical damage and shred enemies into pieces. Dagger Rush does exactly what it sounds like. It barrages the enemy with a combo of dagger attacks. Then an ability that's not as simple is Ruler's Authority, which is a power wielded by the vessels or rulers, and since Ashbourne used to be a ruler before turning to the monarchs, Jin Woo of course has access to that too. This is a form of telekinesis, which allows Jin Woo to move objects and people given that they are weaker than him around. Although other hunters who have received the ruler's blessings can also use this ability, Jin Woo was able to use it to incapacitate all the Architect statues at once. Plus, it doesn't use any mana at all. But the most important power that Jin Woo receives is the one that enables him to manipulate the life force of living beings, including resurrecting the dead. This is how he's able to create a whole shadow army. Using his shadow extraction ability, Jin Woo is able to resurrect fallen monsters that he's killed and turn them into shadows, essentially making them his eternal slaves. For example, when an S-rank gate spawned in Tokyo, Jinwoo killed and extracted the shadows of the giants who attacked. This created his strongest infantry unit of 28 soldiers, as each of the giants was strong enough to contend with an S-rank hunter. Even the number 2 national level Chinese hunter Liu Zigang had trouble beating just one of these guys. But it's not just monsters, he can also extract the shadows of humans, as seen with Min Byung-gyu. Byung-gyu was an S-rank hunter who died at the hands of the Ant King during the Jeju Island arc. An incredible healer and probably the best in all of Korea. Jinwoo revived him so that Chai Hae-in could be healed, as she was on the brink of death. However, after completing this, Jinwoo decided to let Byung-gyu go, releasing his shadow extraction. This is because the shadows have no real will of their own. They're Jinwoo's slaves and will do whatever he wants. Byung-gyu had been fighting for years, enduring the war between hunters and monsters. He was now finally able to rest. But if Jinwoo brought it back, he would be nothing more than an immortal slave forced to continue fighting when he no longer wanted to. So if you ever manage to piss Jinwoo off, you can't even run away. And even when you're dead, you'll just become his bitch and serve him.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
One of the things that makes these shadows so OP is that they're almost impossible to detect whilst they're hiding within the shadows of humans. In the story, only Isil's father, someone in the demon castle, and Lennart Nierman are able to notice their presence because of how perceptive they are. Even top class S-rankers are completely clueless, as Jinwoo puts a few of his shadows upon them in the Hunters Convention in America. Furthermore, Jinwoo's abilities, Monarch's Domain, also exponentially increases the shadow's already incredible power, as he can buff the strength of all his active soldiers by 50% in battle. His own healing ability is also applicable to the shadows, giving them the power of regeneration. So until his mana runs out, even if you manage to kill a shadow, they will just come back almost instantly. During the International Conference arc, Germany's top hunter even claimed that Jinwoo could wage war on the entire United States with his shadow army. Any country in the world would get decimated by his forces, as he's able to hold up to 130,000 shadows, and at the end of the series, he has access to over 10 million. Moreover, these soldiers constantly remain hidden in the shadows, so Jinwoo doesn't need to spend mana to summon them, and he can unleash them at any time he wants. He can even use his shadows as a portal to travel vast distances in an instant through his shadow exchange ability. Bro actually has fast travel. Of course, just like the hunters, the shadows also have a ranking system, starting off at normal grade, elite, knight, commander or general, marshal, and finally grand marshal. The final ranks second only to Jinwoo himself, who takes on the role of master/monarch. With that being said, let's go over all the major shadows present throughout the story. The first shadow Jinwoo ever extracted is the blood red commander Igris. Now Igris is a special case, as he originally served under Ashbourne during the original war with the rulers, and so Ashbourne assigned him to test his successor when the time was right. Jinwoo would first encounter Igris as a boss within the Job Change Quest dungeon. During their fight, Igris refused to be extracted by Jinwoo until he saw his worth. But as we know, our boy is him, and was able to defeat Igris, showcasing his worth as Ashbourne's successor. And even after all that, Igris still needed a reason to serve Jinwoo, but eventually he saw our goat's worth and Igris became his subordinate. It's important to note that although shadow soldiers are undead slaves, they do develop their own personalities, and Igris is no exception to this. His biggest fixation is on loyalty, first with Ashbourne and now with Jinwoo. He fights entirely for his master and is fueled by battle. He even has the problem of bringing back the heads of enemies to Jinwoo. Igris is also extremely powerful. Firstly, he's a master swordsman, as he was able to keep up with Jinwoo during their initial fight, as well as being virtually invisible to Jinwoo's attack due to his armor, only being significantly weakened once penetrated in the eye. He was already in power, but when Jinwoo was reborn as the new Shadow Monarch, Igris obtained his true powers and jumped 2 grades from Elite Knight to Marshal. He possesses enhanced strength, speed, rejuvenation, and durability, not to mention his OP telekinesis abilities. His power is truly showcased when he had to hold his own against the Frost Monarch without Jinwoo's presence. This is also a testament to his top-notch combat skills, since he's the 3rd strongest shadow in Jinwoo's army. The The next time Jinwoo would obtain essential components to his shadow army would be in the Red Gate. The Red Gate was the home of powerful ice bears and elves, so Jinwoo just had to show off and kill all the ice bears, including their leader. Jinwoo then added the boss leader to his shadow army like catching a goddamn Pokemon, naming him Tank because of his raw power and strength in battle. Due to being a literal animal, Tank doesn't have a distinct personality like most of the other important shadows, normally just using his animal instincts to plow through enemies and tear them apart with his teeth and claws. He does, however, possess intelligence, as seen when he worked with another member of the Shadow Army to kill one of the High Orc Shaman's generals. And that member of the Shadow Army is none other than Iron, another shadow Jinwoo extracted during the Red Gate incident. Iron was originally the A-rank hunter Kim Chul. He was the leader of the raid team and decided to split the hunters into weaker and stronger groups, only to lose his crew. However, after seeing Jinwoo's group survive with plenty of resources, he goes crazy and attacks him in a battle with the king of the Ice Elves, Baruka. He would attempt to kill Jinwoo, but would be quickly killed by Igris. And Jinwoo, seeing he couldn't handle the Elf King just with him and Igris, he resurrected Kim Chul into a shadow soldier named Iron. The shadow takes after his appearance in life, wearing the same armor and wielding the same weapons that he did as a hunter. He's a complete loose cannon, having a tendency to go overboard in battle. This normally results in excessive destruction, but he takes pride in his kills and always gets the job done. After Jinwoo's awakening, his rank was increased from Night Grade to Elite Night Grade. Iron's strength is incredible, as his rank is comparable to that of an S-rank hunter. His enhanced strength allowed him to not only kill a giant with a single strike to its head, but also allow him to effortlessly drag the head of a lifeless Vulcan with one hand. His most unique ability is Shout of Provocation, which allows Iron to taunt his enemies, prompting them to attack him without thinking. It's important to note, however, that this ability only works against those weaker than him, and he becomes visibly upset when it doesn't work. He would be returned to his human life after Jinwoo used the Cup of Reincarnation, having no memories of his time as the Shadow.
Next up is Tusk, who Jinwoo encountered when he joined a team at the Hunters Guild while they were going into an A-rank gate, which is said to be the highest level of an A-rank, almost close to being an S rank. After traversing the dungeon, he came across the leader of the orcs, who was a High Orc Shaman. Jinwoo, being the goat, easily killed him and extracted his shadow, transforming the shaman into Tusk. Something crazy about this shadow is that upon extraction, he was already elite night level, making him one of the strongest shadows instantly. Tusk is a shy, quiet, and obedient shadow. He mainly stays to himself and focuses solely on aiding his master. However, he can get a bit competitive and become a bit of a show-off, as shown during his contest with the 3 dragons in Ashbourne's shadow army. Which kind of makes sense, because when Jinwoo recruited him, he was talking about how high and mighty he is. He had quite a big ego, suggesting that the ego and will a person or a monster has while being turned into a shadow comes into play as part of their personality quirk when they become a shadow. After Jinwoo's awakening, Tusk reached the grade of General, which is already on par with some of the highest S ranks. Due to Tusk being of the mage class, he has a much more versatile moveset than other shadows. Firstly, he's a master of gravitation magic, where he's able to levitate an enemy and smash them into the ground repeatedly. But his most unique abilities are his hymns, which all produce different effects in battle. Now, buckle up, because this is about to get crazy. He's like the new league champ. Wait, bro got like 20 abilities. First up is the Hymn of Protection, where Tusk can create a shield around him or his target. Second is Hymn of Blazing Fire, where he shoots a wave of fireballs. Third is the Hymn of Agony, where Tusk curses an enemy with intense pain. This actually works in tandem with the next hymn, the Hymn of Frenzy, which weakens a target's defense, thus increasing the amount of damage someone takes from attacks. Then there is Hymn of Blindness, where Tusk naturally blinds his enemy. This is followed up by the Hymn of Slumber, in which Tusk drains a target of their stamina, and he can then use the Hymn of Lethargy, where he can petrify the target. And finally, the Hymn of Strengthening, which drastically grows Tusk's size using mana. But even after all that, he still has more hymns. Holy shit. bro. His main attack is the Hymn of the Fire Dragon, in which Tusk is able to shoot a massive beam of fire from his mouth. This skill is enhanced when used with the Orb of Avarice, to the point that it completely negated Baron's breath attack, who, remember, was the king of the demons and the monarch of the white flames. A simple subordinate is able to stay on equal footing with the offensive power of a freaking monarch here. And by the way, this was like before Jinwoo's like big awakening where Tusk became general rank. Not only that, but Tusk even blasted a giant hole through Halasan with just this attack. If that doesn't showcase how powerful this guy is in Jinwoo's army, he's literally the mage commander. He sits back, buffs up everyone, hits them with lethargy, hits them with the fire attacks, and just destroys everyone, okay? Honestly, if Jinwoo wasn't at that A rank dungeon when he got there, like, even Cha Hain probably would have had a pretty tough matchup against this guy. So he's on a completely different level. Honestly, while we're talking about how Tusk was able to negate Baron's attack, let's talk about Baron's trusty steed, the dragon Kaisel. This guy was Baron's mount. But when Jinwoo was fighting Baron, he saw the dragon and said, nah, that's my mount now, give it to me. So after killing Baron, he extracted the dragon's shadow, transforming him into Kaisel. Honestly, this is one of my favorite shadows. But even though Kaisel is knight rank, we rarely see him fight because there's just so many other shadows that are OP. But he does use a few basic attacks, and he uses a dragon attack like Fire Breath, and to be honest, he's just a means of fast travel. This dude, Jinwoo, uses a mount. His horse, his pet dragon, is strong enough to flatten most S ranks. And he's just using it for fast travel.
Sensational.
Next up, we gotta talk about greed. You guys remember this guy, Wang Dongsu?
Who?
Yeah, he's the asshole who wanted to kill... He wanted to kill Jinwoo.
Stupid.
Well, he died. And now he's a member of Jinwoo's Shadow Army. Dongsu had led a life full of crime, as he had no care for human life and was a huge bully while alive. Dongsu hated Jinwoo for killing his brother, and so he decided to torture Jinwoo's best friend, Jinho, in order to get revenge. If there's anything this video has taught us, it's that you do not piss off Sung Jinwoo. And this happened right after Jinwoo's fight with Thomas Andre, one of the strongest hunters. Honestly, he's the number one ranked hunter. But despite being slightly tired, Jinwoo was so pissed that he wasn't letting Dongsu get away. Well, it seems pretty clear to me Dongsu didn't watch our video. Jinwoo literally hunted this man down, killed him, and extracted the shadow from his corpse. Not only did Jinwoo name him Greed because he was a greedy asshole, but also made him bow his head and forced the bully into submission. Unlike Iron or Myungyu, who were victims of monster attacks, Greed was made a shadow on purpose so that Jinwoo could give Dongsu the worst possible fate, because bro messed with Jinho, and nobody messes with Jinho. Despite originally being human, Greed looks more like a monster resembling his personality. But as a shadow, Greed is aware of his crimes and has decided to repent by being humble, quiet, and subservient to his master. He often asks permission to speak and addresses Jinwoo with honorifics. However, despite his redemption, which he can certainly achieve due to being granted general grade upon becoming a shadow, Hwang Dong-soo was already an extremely powerful S-rank hunter, and Jinwoo's shadow steroids make him even more powerful. Now, with sheer brute strength, he broke out of the Frost Monarch's ice prison. Just like Iron, Greed would be returned to his human form after the conflict with the Monarchs was concluded, and Jinwoo used the Cup of Reincarnation. Now, Jinwoo didn't just extract normal bosses, humans, and monsters. No, he extracted some of the craziest monsters we see throughout the entire series. The most prominent one was obtained during Jeju Island's raid, where the S ranks from multiple countries came together to fight the army of ants which had taken over the island. While their target was the Ant Queen, there was actually a hidden boss, the Ant King. He was so powerful that he single-handedly massacred 8 of the 16 S ranks who attempted to clear the gate, including Goto Ryuji, the strongest hunter in Japan, and if this raid had succeeded, he was gonna become a national level hunter. So like, this dude was in contention to being like top 5, top 6 hunters in the world, but he got one shot. But Jinwoo enters the scene and literally starts slaughtering hundreds of these little ants, which makes the Ant King realize that he can't win, and he tries to flee. Like, this dude tries everything. He tries to beat him in speed, he tries to beat him in strength, durability, making himself small, everything. He tries everything, but Jinwoo is just better. He's stronger. But after the raid, seeing the potential the Ant King showed, as he literally was destroying S ranks like it was nobody's business, Jinwoo decided to revive the king and name him Beru. Meanwhile, Jinwoo also extracted the shadow of the dead Ant Queen. Beru informed him that she was unfit for battle, so that's why we're not going to talk about the Ant Queen's shadow. Due to having been born to kill, Beru revels in his power and has a sinister bloodlust for battle. So naturally, he's incredibly brutal in combat, rarely holding back unless ordered to, going straight for his enemy's weak spot. He's also pretty condescending towards his fellow shadow soldiers, as displayed when he started screaming furiously at them when they failed to follow his lead and break out of the Frost Monarch's ice prison. But outside of battle, he's basically the funniest character in the series. Like all the other shadow soldiers, Beru is loyal to his master, but on a much greater scale. He's so loyal, he will compliment Jinwoo mid-battle, as well as constantly aim for his approval. But to make this guy even crazier, he's got a hobby of watching K-dramas, but not just any K-dramas, historical K-dramas, which make him sound like he's some Korean general from like the 1700s, bro. And of course, he learned this while guarding Jinwoo's sister. But in terms of power, Beru is a member of the 3 strongest shadows in Jinwoo's army, being on equal footing with Igris and the Grand Marshal. He was originally general grade and became marshal grade after Jinwoo's reawakening, and his power is off the charts. Firstly, he has incredible strength, speed, and durability, being able to effortlessly crush Chahain's sword in his bare hand. He also one-shot an Arclick, broke out of the Frost Monarch's ice prison, and slashed off the Plague Monarch's fingers. On top of that, he was able to tank Jinwoo's attacks during their training session, as well as being able to fly from Jeju to Busan in a matter of minutes. He can also enhance his power with his ability Size Manipulation, allowing him to increase his strength at the cost of speed by growing his body, and vice versa. But this guy is on another level, and we're not even done covering, because Beru also has this ability called Gluttony, which allows him to absorb the skills and knowledge of those he consumes. This works in tandem with his other powers like Paralysis Potion, where Beru spits a magical poison which is extremely toxic and fatal, killing a target in seconds. On the other hand, he's also a master healer, even being able to bring Jinho back to full health from the brink of death. After Jinwoo reset history, Beru continued to stay loyal and even watched over the new Shadow Monarch's son, Sung Soo-ho, growing a close attachment to him. He was like his nanny, basically. But if you thought an Ant King was badass, then what about a freaking dragon? This is Kamish, and he's known as humanity's greatest calamity, as he demolished America's west coast and massacred many hunters. He destroyed half of the US, okay? Like, what the f? Kamish was originally a servant of the Dragon Monarch Antares, the strongest monarch. It wouldn't be until eons later when he would spawn in America, and he was only defeated and killed once the last 5 surviving S-rank hunters came together. You heard me right. They needed 5 S-rank hunters to defeat this guy. Kamish only became a shadow for a short while, as after his death, the FDH preserved his body in the same exact location he died in. Due to being dead for so long, the shadow extraction couldn't be permanent, and so Kamish's body withered away. However, Kamish still had some amazing feats and abilities even without the shadow buff. First of all, he was able to single-handedly massacre hundreds of S-rank hunters. His power is also set to be comparable to pre-Shadow Beru, who, let me remind you, he killed Goto Ryuji in one hit. One single hit. Just like all the other dragons in the series, Kamish also has a Dragon Breath attack, but his most signature technique is Dragon Sphere. Also, one super important detail about Kamish is that Jinwoo's best weapon, Kamish's Wrath, is forged from his fangs. This means even though Kamish could never properly join the army, he was still with our boy in spirit. And then later on, he gets 3 freaking dragons in his army. This is light work. This dude who defeated hundreds of S rankers and was only quelled by nation level hunters coming together. Oh my god, now he has 3 of them. Another boss that our boy Jinwoo acquired is the A rank boss Naga, a part human and part snake creature. Jima is on the level of the average S rank hunter since he's an elite night grade shadow. Finally, we've reached the strongest shadow in Jinwoo's army, the greatest gift given to our boy from Ashbourne, Grand Marshal Bellion. He's a huge humanoid-like creature with a pair of black wings on his back, black armor, white eyes, and glowing purple skin with a single horned helmet worn on his head. He was born eons ago from the fruit of the world tree, which is said to be so large that it could cover the entire sky with just its branches. He eventually became Ashbourne's lieutenant, which he even maintained after his death, and was also the first shadow soldier to ever be created. Jinwoo would encounter his second in command for the first time after he had killed the 3 monarchs as a giant gate opened in Korea, containing Ashbourne's full original shadow arm. Here, Bellion would pledge his loyalty to Jinwoo, becoming his greatest asset. Naturally, as the first shadow, he maintained a personality. Bellion isn't very emotional. He just simps for the Shadow Monarch, whether that's Ashbourne or Jinwoo. And like a lot of other shadows, he's a warrior through and through, both in body and soul. But due to his rank being Grand Marshal, he is second in command in the army, just behind Jinwoo. As for his abilities, Bellion's strength and durability are immaculate. To give examples, he was able to easily swat aside Beru's attacks and smash him into the ground. He was also able to completely tank one of Beru's strikes head on, not showing any signs of damage. Remember, Beru is supposed to be just below him in strength, meaning he's stronger than Kamish, who was able to take out hundreds of S ranks, and this guy easily stops him. Also, if you were thinking, wow, is that all we have on the strongest shadow? Then honestly, yeah. Basically, this guy was so hyped. I was left a bit disappointed when we didn't get to like see more of him, you know. But actually, wait. We do actually see him in the side story where Jinwoo's son Sung Soo-ho has to defeat Bellion as the final boss before fighting Jinwoo. So there's that, I guess. But if you want to learn more about why Jinwoo is a freaking god and he isn't actually a human, then click on the video on screen right now.